Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainer and writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey, and it's today, right? Finally today, the Wicked for Good is out in theaters, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't stop us from being contractually obligated to talk about them for the next 3 months.
Okay.
So just...
I literally, I can't escape them. I went into Dunkin' Donuts this past week, and they had this lovely little collectible tin, I want to say in pink and green, that, that I could have munchkins in. And of course,
that's smart.
It was, but it was one of these things. Just walked in, really, here? And then I looked behind the woman at the counter, and there were the green donuts and there were the pink donuts. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, Universal just did not miss a trick this time. And I fully expect to walk out of the house and look, up in the sky and see like the Wicked Witch writing, tickets still available for 4:00 performances.
Wouldn't that be genius?
No.
Well, Jim, I will tell you that I've kept myself from knowing actually how this movie, like a lot of people know how it ends because they've listened to the soundtrack or from Broadway and so forth. I literally have kept myself spoiler free. I have no idea how any of it ends. I mean, I know how the Wizard of Oz ends, but all these other things. So I will finally be able to find out how this all goes, and we'll be able to report back with, so I got a couple more hours before the spoilers are up.
Okay. I got to tell you again, having seen the stage show, and again, I'm a terrible person. I have no self-control. I mean, I remember my daughter yelling at me. We went to one of those Harry Potter midnight, the crack open the book, and I want to say it was had to be Half-Blood Prince, and I'm not proud, I'm walking out of the store and I cracked the last 30 pages and went, oh no, and she's like, no, don't tell me. Don't you dare say,
Jim.
Yeah. So
you and I are the exact opposite. I will do anything possible not to have a spoiler. Like, no matter what, I stay off the internet. I will be spoiler free on anything and everything. That's why, like, shows people that binge, I will literally like shut down and not go on social media for quite some time. I like to feel the in the moment. I don't like anything being spoiled.
I admire your self-control, but I'm a constructionist. I mean, I'm always, I mean, that's, I was, for example, I would look, read Agatha Christie books and then reread them afterward. And it's like, oh, son of a bitch. Yes, she did mention the salt shaker, and it's just sort of like, that she played fair, that she put all the clues in place, and they're all there out in the open if you're paying attention. So that's the thing, that you crack open the back of the book and then, you read the rest of the book and say, wow, that was really well written and the story was well built. But yes, I am also a weak individual who, again, my daughter chided all the time. So,
well, yin and a yang, Jim. You watch the spoiler. Like, I won't even watch ride throughs of rides. Like, I literally stayed away from most of the epic news before going there because I'm like, no, I want to see it with my own eyes. Wow. It's doesn't make me the best podcaster in the world, but it's certainly like I like to experience things on my own and through my own lens. But
you do fine. And more to the point, folks, 78th episode of this podcast today, Hitting the Street. So now, speaking of which, there would not be a podcast without our sponsors. So we should probably acknowledge the very nice folks at unlockmagic.com. And if you're planning a trip to Universal, Orlando, or Walt Disney World, please check out unlockmagic.com. Listeners to the Epic Universal podcast are saving upwards of 12% on theme park tickets, and that includes discounts to after-hours parties like Mickey's Very Merry and Jollywood Nights. And by the way, folks, remember, those only run through, I want to say, the Magic Kingdom one is December 21st, and the ones over the studio December 22nd. So get a move on if you're going to go do those.
Yep.
And more to the point, head on over to unlockmagic.com and save today. So, all right. And as always, Mr. Hersey has been busy gathering the news related to Universal. So what do you got for us this time?
Well, we skipped this one around. We didn't talk about it directly, and I don't know if you got to watch it, but I did get an invite from my girls, Lauren and Lainey, both invited me to the couch to watch the Wicked One Wonderful Night, but I had to do other things. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Jim, did you get to watch the special that was on NBC or Peacock?
There are these 5 and 6 podcasts I have to do every week. And the supreme irony is I make my job these days as an entertainment writer, but do I actually get to watch anything entertaining? No, I'm looking at my laptop.
Well, Jim, that's why you have the spoilers. You just went to the internet I did.
There we go.
And so I had 2 different reports, and I thought this was kind of funny because I read one from CNN that just glowed about it. They were just saying it's the greatest thing ever, and thank goodness. The critic even said, we can still have nice things. And I'm like, well, that's great. So it does turn out that there was some performances, obviously, by Ariana Grande and Cynthia. And it sounded like it was great. And I heard it from a distance, and the girls were singing, so I don't know. So it sounded good. Steven Schwartz was also like on piano, and it sounded like it was a great time.
Well, now, speaking of Steven Schwartz, who, by the way, I have been a fan of this man for decades. I mean, I saw one of the original companies of Godspell back in the 70s. And, in fact, one of his very best scores, The Baker's Wife, a show that came to Boston, and I want to say it actually closed out of town. Never making it to Broadway. It's back on Broadway this season with Scott Bakula playing the baker. But I loved. I don't know. You've seen Wicked at this point, the movie, right?
I have seen the first movie multiple times. All right. Well, by choice or by non-choice.
All right.
Yes.
The part that I have to tell you, I absolutely love in this movie, and it's the very same scene in the movie where Idina Menzel and Christine Chenoweth show up.
Yeah, that was great.
But the thing is, the number One Short Day in the Emerald City ends with "The Wizard Will See You Now." And what's significant about the gentleman who says that's actually Steven Schwartz. Playing the goofy guard, at the Wizard's Palace, but that's Steven Schwartz up there, and he looks like he's having a hell of a good time,
that's awesome. No, I didn't know that. I didn't read enough online. I'm sure my girls would have been able to tell you that. They know a little bit of everything else, but no, that's awesome. No, and so it sounded good, but I went to Reddit because I'm like, this CNN article was way too nice, and I wanted to see like what real people thought of this. But it does turn out that a lot of people actually enjoyed this. So I had some Reddit takeaways. It said that many was describing it as an amazing and emotional, powerful, and tear-inducing, the singing of Ariana for the song For Good. And then longtime fans definitely appreciated that Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel were included in this, passing the torch. There was some notable criticism that there was the broadcast had too many commercials.
Oh, what a surprise! Oh my God! A television.
Right. Have you watched TV?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. But it does look like there's a lot of people that are emotionally invested. So the Redditors out there on there thought it was great. So that's I just wanted to pull that out there and say that for those who watch, we would like to hear what you had to say. Was it any good? Were you like CNN? Were you one that says maybe it's all right? But there's not that many specials like that anymore. There used to be a ton of them in terms of like Christmas specials, Easter specials, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we still have one or two out there each year.
Now, moving to, and again, this is Comcast, which owns the Universal Parks and, owns Universal Pictures. So obviously they're looking to the parks to help promote the fact that Wicked for Good is about to arrive in theaters. And that actually started up a couple of weeks ago, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, so last year they converted one of the front stores in Universal Studios Florida into the Wicked experience, and it's pretty cool actually. I got to witness it multiple times. So we went in there, and it has all types of obviously Wicked merchandise and props and actual items from the movies. And I thought maybe it was just going to be like a temporary store, but they've kept it the entire year, and they updated this year. And even for a brief period of time last year, you could actually meet Elphaba and Glinda, and they're back out now. So for those that are interested or you can now meet and greet with them basically in the same location. And that obviously is for promotion. But my thing, Jim, you think this is just going to stick around? At first I thought the Wicked experience would just be like a short period of time. They did stop the meet and greets after the movie was done. But why would they stop that now? I mean, you still meet Scooby-Doo and The Simpsons and so forth. Why wouldn't you want to keep that out there?
Well, we have mentioned on this show previously that Mark Woodbury, the new head of Universal, destinations and experiences, he visited the set of Wicked and flat out said, "This is a theme park waiting to happen." I would honestly be surprised, especially given there's been so much talk recently about Ariana Grande's performance in this film, and that right now the supporting actress Oscar is reportedly hers to lose. That's supposedly how good she is in this movie. But face it, that there's going to be the video, and in fact, I want to say, isn't Wicked, the first installment, actually airing on NBC days ahead of when Wicked for Good drops? Effectively to prime the pump for the five of us who haven't actually seen this in theater.
Aren't they doing a double header in a couple places too, like back to back or something like that?
They are.
Right.
But now here's the thing, Eric. I was planning on this trip to Orlando, down there. In fact, this week for IAPA. I was just planning to do Epic Universe. I was going to check out the new park because there's nothing that I really need to see at Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios Florida. And now you're talking about this meet and greet like it's something I maybe need to make a trip over to the main campus to check out. Is it really that good? Or
that's the thing is, we went there last year and they were sporadically meeting. It wasn't like they were always meeting and there weren't set times. We did not see them out, but I imagine I think it could be similar to like when the Anna and Elsa meet and greet first opened, and it was just ridiculous lines and so forth. So maybe they're just kind of casually dropping them in and out without worried. So I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't necessarily make a specific trip because it would really suck if they weren't out there. And
but don't they have like costumes from the films or art, concept art and that sort of thing? Oh, all right.
Yeah, well, it's definitely costumes, and you definitely can touch a screen worn dress and illegally. Okay. Not to shout out any grandmother that might accidentally did that.
No.
Right.
All right. Well,
very proud. She's like, I touched that.
Okay.
I touched that.
Wow. Okay.
No, Jim, but I mean, if I were in your situation, definitely the Epic, the time spent at Epic will be well worth it.
Okay.
If you can make it to the other parks, there's always things.
All right. And I wait 5 years, I can go to Wicked to Land. Did I say that out loud? All right. Never mind. Okay. But speaking of Epic Universe, and I got to tell you, if I were in the park the day that this happened, I would think what you're about to describe is cute, but I would also be very bummed out. Can you?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Talk about it.
Well, this happened a couple weeks ago, and then it happened again. So I thought it would be just fun for us to talk about. So for those not aware, Monsters Unchained had a couple bad days, at least one day where it was shut down for quite some time. And photos went online, and it showed some cornhole boards out in front, not really themed, just your standard cornhole boards, red and blue bean bags, and cast members and children and or anyone that wanted to, pay a couple $100 for a ticket to go play cornhole was given their opportunity in a mid, like a gothic setting. But that happened and it sprung online, and it was just one of those things. Well, a week later, Jim, did you see what they were playing out front?
No.
A little Connect 4, Jim, a giant Connect 4. Oh. So I guess this is where you're going to be playing your board games if the ride goes down.
Wow. I mean,
which is just humorous.
No, it is.
You're right.
It is.
Please, I hope this doesn't happen when you're there. Please don't play Sorry or Monopoly out front.
Well, I mean, the other thing, I mean this in the kindest possible way, but IAAPA, the Attractions Expo, is literally the themed entertainment Super Bowl. Everybody travels from around the world, to come to Orlando to not only attend this industry event, but also check out the latest and greatest. So, face it, people are going to be walking straight out of the Orange County Convention Center to go over to Epic Universe. So if there's ever a week where I'm pretty sure everything's going to be up and running, it's this week.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, having said that, I guess I should practice cornhole just in case, So.
Jordan Toy. Well, my question, Jim, real quick, is this why? I mean, it might service a couple people, but if you're wanting to do the ride, I don't think that's going to solve and make anybody happy, right? Why do they do these these games and stuff?
You have to, that's the thing. You have to make the effort, and in fact, there was a great story I just read about a dad who had accompanied his daughter and their school group to a theme park. They did a day at a theme park. And when he got his daughter home, just the dad being a dad. So you had a good time? Yeah. What was your favorite part? Oh, my favorite part was when you bought me a coffee and we sat and talked together. And, that's the hard reality that yes, as somebody who's written about the theme park industry forever, I would be disappointed, if I showed up at Epic Universe and weren't able to ride the Frankenstein Experiment. But on the other hand, there might be, a father and a daughter, a mother and a son who, when they play cornhole outside of, Victoria Frankenstein's estate, and that becomes a favorite family memory for some reason. So it's just sort of like, you have to sort of take the 30,000 foot view that, okay, you're upset, they're having a good time. And so it's like, oh, all right. So maybe here's an interesting idea. Maybe it's not all about me. I mean, just think.
You're not wrong, Jim. The thing is, that's really funny. And I didn't think of it that way. And we're making fun. But a couple of my memories, I remember being in torrential downpour at Magic Kingdom. And my family is huddled up underneath like an umbrella in front of the Haunted Mansion. And it is a core memory of just we stood there for 30 minutes. And it's just obviously that's the worst possible scenario.
Yep.
I'd much rather play cornhole. But yeah, you're right. So that is interesting. And I stand corrected by making fun of these board games.
No.
But let's
go ahead.
So speaking of games, Jim, did you see this next story?
Yeah. So Fortnite and The Simpsons, a Springfield crossover event. What is this about?
Oh, Jim, I heard about this. So just for everybody understanding that Miles and Miles is my 8-year-old. We started watching The Simpsons together. We made it through season 1. And my son Miles is also hardcore Fortnite, anything and everything Fortnite. That's what he watches on YouTube, this, that, so forth. For them to come together and mash at this exact time has been wonderful. It's certainly fun watching Marge run around and and take people out on Fortnite. But they actually had a crossover. So I'm not really, obviously this could be a Disney news, this could be Universal, but as of right now, the only Springfield you can go to is at the Universal Park. So now there's a virtual Springfield that is through Fortnite. So Jim, how familiar are you with Fortnite? I know you know of it, but have you got to, is it something that you've played or heard or?
I am conversational. I mean, this is the one where everybody looks like they're made out of Legos. Is that correct?
That's more Roblox. So but same kind. It's like world building in a sense where like we all go on and play and you can. But the thing is with Fortnite, and I believe they actually have a deal going on with Disney. It's like the Epic Games because they've done a lot. There's lots of skins, which is different characters you can buy. So you run around and you play, and there's these different types of games. But the thing that's been really popular is that like they'll do these drops, and it'll be Marvel drops, or it'll be maybe it'll be Superman when he came out and promoted. And they're doing these just genius like character drops, like Miles bought the Power Ranger with, like he was a Green Ranger, and now you can buy Simpsons. But you also can, like, they do themed overlay. So I guess there's an island now, a Springfield Island, in which 80 players can get dropped on, and they have this thing called Battle Royale, which is like every man for themselves, just going around playing kind of like, capture the flag, or paintball, but with ridiculous weapons and characters. So, it just launched, I think the 1st of November. So it's been out for a couple weeks, but highly, fun, successful, and great publicity. And it's just really fun to see this world come alive and people running around playing as the different characters.
That's so cool. And face it, we do have the second Simpson theatrical film showing up. I think, is it next year or 2027? Either way, you have to assume that Disney will revisit this idea out ahead of that. So,
oh yeah. Well, did you see this? This is the one thing that I didn't get to check yet, but I learned about this through their press release or their thing. So there are weekly Simpsons animated shorts that are actually premiering in their game, which is a whole new beast of like how they can get people to all show up at the same time to watch something. But they're also on Disney Plus. So there's a couple Apocalypse Dope, which came out on the 1st. Looks like Sugar High, Malta Idiocy, and The Incredible Bulk. These are all shorts that are kind of made for this that you can probably see maybe at the time of recording here.
Now I gotta go. Now I gotta check this out.
Well, if you want to play Fortnite, I'll get your login with Miles, and he'll teach you how to play.
Cool. Okay. So, and finally, as we wrap things up in the news section, this is really more of a I want that too story, isn't it?
Yeah. See what happens is a lot of times anything merch related, I send over to Lauren so you guys can talk about it. But sometimes I'm going to keep the really, really good stuff for myself because I really like this. Did you see that and we've not talked about it, but one day I think we should do a show on the epic, like the best billboards ever created.
They were amazing. They were amazing.
Right. Well, there's merchandise with them on it now, Jim. So it's the Universal Billboard merchandise. So you can buy a print, which I would love, which has they're 1990s billboards.
Yeah.
But you could also buy a tank top and a t-shirt. They have it's like postcards. So for those not familiar, the billboards have there's a Jaws, Back to the Future, E.T., King Kong.
Any of us who, made the drive from Orlando International Airport, first up the Beeline, and then as you get out on the 4, you remember these, and they, it was, and Universal decided back in the day that the way they were going to stand out from the Disney billboards is they went 3-dimensional. So these things were huge. And it's so nice to see them again. It's been a while, don't get me wrong. I enjoy driving on the Beeline and, there's Harry Potter again, but yeah, they're
nothing like this though, man. No. I mean, as someone in advertising and kind of looks at this stuff pretty, with high critique, the billboards are kind of bland, for the theme parks nowadays. These were really, they were really something. And it was almost like a billboard war because I think Universal made Disney up their game a bit and so forth. I'd love to see some of these come back. They would be amazing. They would do wonders to create something like that again, to get people's attentions in such a advertising driven world.
I would argue that, there are folks who go out to Las Vegas and make a point of going to the Neon Museum, that amazing, and it's supposed to be wonderful, especially wonderful at night because so many of the marquees movies and the key figures from the Las Vegas's past are there on display. And I would argue I would go to something in Orlando that had giant sharks and E.T. with his weird fingers, right. to check them out. Because again, that's the thing. All of us look at these things going by at 70 miles an hour, and it's just I'd love to get up close and see what went into these things.
Right. Well, until then, you can just buy a T-shirt or tank top.
There we go. There we go. Now,
glass, I guess.
That said, though, this is merch supposedly only for the annual pass holders. That's right.
It's in the. It looks like it. I haven't seen it in person,
okay.
So it looks like it was found at the annual pass holder billboard. But maybe it's one of those things where you have to buy it as an annual pass holder first, or maybe you just send an annual pass holder in, or maybe they'll bring it out to the regular stores after a while.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I'm suddenly thinking I have another reason I have to go to Universal Studios Florida to see if these are out in stores. So,
right.
Well, anyway, folks, that brings us to the end of the news portion of this week's show. And when Eric and I get back from this break, we're going to pay tribute to the man who, let's be honest here, there probably wouldn't be a Universal Orlando resort if it weren't for Jay Stein, who we lost earlier this month at the age of 88. And again, when Eric and I get back, we're going to look back on Jay's career and how he made such a huge difference in the world of themed entertainment. But first, this.
Hello, I'm Chris Cox, and I've teamed up with Len Tester to argue before our judge, Jim Hill, as he presides over us on our new podcast, The Case For with Chris Cox. In every episode, Len and I will argue about the big Disney debates, like park hopping, early entry, and whether churros count as a food group. Whether you're planning a trip or just love Disney debates, it's the perfect podcast for you. Search The Case For with Chris Cox wherever you get your podcast.
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do?
I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault, a new series streaming now only on Peacock.
The Who's Down in Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
Hey, the vibes are slipping. I think it's time to bring out the Velveeta shells and cheese. The holidays are a time to go all in on indulgence. Headline your meals with the rich, creamy meltiness of Velveeta shells and cheese and satisfy your holiday cravings like no other. Bring that main course energy to your side dish. Celebrate extra with Velveeta these holidays.
And we're back. Okay, Eric, at this point, you have been on a number of Universal attractions, so you know this moment on the sorts of rides that they do there. Like you've done the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, right, at Islands?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Okay, so you know that scene about midway through the attraction where suddenly it's Spidey fighting with Hobgoblin and he's lobbing pumpkin bombs at us. And all right, Spidey's able to grab one of them with his webbing, but that ride vehicle we're traveling in, the Scoop, it moves from one room to another room. And, for just a second, we're under a doorway and there's this loud explosion just overhead. And we all look up and there's literally a ball of fire, just because one of the pumpkin bombs has made it through and almost hit us. And it's that people in the themed entertainment call that moment a JayBang. That burst of flame, that splash of water, that that seemingly dead corpse of a great white, that suddenly comes to life one last time, and tries to bite you. And we have JayBangs because of one man, Jay Stein, who passed away earlier this month on Wednesday, November 5th, to be exact, at the age of 87. And Mr. Stein was in charge of the Universal Parks for more than 25 years. And Jay actually got his start in this division at MCA back in 1967, which is when Lou Wasserman, the big guy in charge of Universal for years, he turned to the then just 26-year-old Stein and effectively told him, fix the tram tour. Now,
that sounds so young of a person.
I mean, 26. Oh my God! Right. All right, but this is the thing. And now Eric and I have talked at length on this podcast about the early days of the tram tour at Universal City Hollywood. How this entertainment enterprise first got started in July of 1964. And back then, Eric, there were only 2 glamour trams, and the whole operation was run out of a Quonset hut up on Lancashire Boulevard. I mean, it was a bare minimum operation. But now, as for Jay Stein, prior to being handed this assignment by Lou Wasserman, he had been a real up-and-comer at Universal International Pictures. Jay, it was a classic Hollywood story, Eric. He started in the mailroom at MCA in October of 1959, and within 6 months, this very ambitious 18-year-old had convinced the people who ran Universal's production office to give him a job on that side of the studio. And Stein just kept hard charging for the next, 8 years, which is by 1967, he is now the assistant studio manager, which means that, again, this kid has great working relationships with, virtually every actor, director, and writer on the lot. And we're talking about big people here, like, Alfred Hitchcock and Ronald Reagan. So when Wasserman turns to Stein and says, you have to figure out how to fix the tram tour. Everyone who works here at the studio absolutely hates this thing. They find it disrupted to production. Hell, just last week, Shirley MacLaine mooned, an entire tram full of tourists. We can't have that. They're paying us good money to visit our backlot and see movies and TV shows being made. But here's the thing. We get our biggest crowds on Saturdays and Sundays, and when nothing's being made on our sound stages. And to be honest, people are getting kind of pissed off because they realize they're paying good money to tour an empty movie studio. And Stein, he admitted, look, Wasserman wasn't wrong. That there were a lot of stars, writers, and directors who worked at Universal who did hate the tram tour. They'd actually close their soundstage doors if they heard the glamour tram rolling, up the road. And again, these people did in fact pay good money. So Jay does something interesting. When he takes the job, he actually works every tour-related job just to get a sense of what's the whole operation here. And then, he thinks on it and he says, well, look, just given the nature of the way Hollywood works, we cannot guarantee to these folks that when they come and take the Universal tram tour, that they're going to see stars. But we can give them some movie magic. Which is why, in 1968, The Flash Flood debuts in the Mexican Village portion of the tram tour. This is Jay's idea, Eric, to have 20,000 gallons of water suddenly running down the hill at the glamour tram. That's the thrill part. And then as the guests move to the next part of the tour, they then get to look back and watch that scene reset. The water get pumped back uphill, so hey, I get to see some Hollywood magic. And so this addition to the tram tour, Lou Wasserman just loves because The guests riding the tram tour clearly enjoyed it. And Stein, because he knew the backlot like the back of his hand, again, he'd been the assistant production manager for the entire lot for all those years. He had found a place on the lower lot that was actually far away from the stars, so no one would complain. When every 5 minutes a new tramlet of tourists would roll through and then experience a flash flood in a Mexican village.
Right.
All right. So by the way, this is our very first JayBang. And on the heels of this edition of the tram tour being so successful, Lou turns to Jay and says, do more of those. You have my permission. Which is why, as the 60s give way to the 70s, the Universal Tram Tour out in Hollywood sees movie magic moments like the parting of the Red Sea, the burning house, the runaway train, the submarine attack, and the rock slide get added along the route that the glamour tram travels. And mind you, I'm not going to lie, Eric. Most of these movie magic moments were pretty generic. They're not tied to any specific film. Parting of the Red Sea might have been an exception. I mean, Cecil B. DeMille actually made 2 versions of this, the silent movie version in 1923, and then a widescreen color remake in 56. But both of those were for Paramount. And, and to Jay's way of thinking, it's like, well, look, it's the Bible. That's got to be in public domain, okay? It's not like we're going to get a complaint from the author that we're using one of his scenes on, without authorization. So, it's just like, I think that's okay to do as a movie magic moment. But with each passing year, these things get more and more elaborate. I mean, for example, the collapsing bridge that the glamour tram began traveling over in 74, and Stein's additions to the tram tour are now so successful that Lou finally gave Jay permission to go from generic moments of movie magic that could have come from any movie being made by any studio out in Hollywood to scenes that were now being pulled from specific Universal Pictures releases. And the first of these, the Glacier Avalanche, which was inspired by the Iger Sanction. This is a Clint Eastwood action adventure that Universal released to theaters in May of 75, becomes the new finale of the tram tour. And the beauty part of this is this dazzling effect, which survived for years. Eric, its last iteration was mummy themed, if you can believe it. But yeah, the thing is that your tram pulls into what you think is an ice tunnel, which then your vehicle remains stationary, but the walls around you begin to spin. And by the way, this is a classic amusement park, illusion. It was done as far back as 1893, and they some people called it the Madhouse, some people call it the Haunted Swing.
Yeah, we've all seen that, right? Yeah. I mean, I think they had it at Noah's Ark at Kennywood when I was there a couple weeks ago.
There we go. All right, so and but again, what excited people wasn't just this cool illusion, but it's like, hey, I'm seeing something on the tour that's based on a movie that only just recently came out in theaters. I'm hip. I'm up to date. And so, this Iger sanction, link thing works. Which is why, Jay goes to Lee, and says, look, you have to allow me to do more of these. Add more moments to the tram tour that are tied to movies and TV shows that the Universal is producing right now, because I think that if we promote this stuff properly, we can convince even more people to come out and experience the Universal Studios tram tour. And Wasserman says to Stein, well, all right, what do you have in mind? And he says, well, that movie with the shark, the one that's out in theaters right now. I was thinking that we should add a scene featuring the shark from Jaws to the tram tour, one where it leaps out of the water and frightens people who are riding on the glamour tram. And Eric, believe it or not, it's that exact moment that transforms the Universal theme parks. Not to mention helps launch the modern theme park. But we'll get to that part of the story in a moment. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event is on now with awesome deals on their most popular models, including adventure-ready SUVs like the Hyundai Santa Fe and Santa Fe Hybrid. There's also the stylish Elantra, packed with the latest tech, or go electric with the Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Offers in January 5th, 2026.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew, too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
And we're back. Okay. So, folks, if you previously listened to an Epic Universal podcast, the thing that Eric and I are doing right here, you know, we talked about it on this show, how balky the mechanical sharks were back in 1974 when Spielberg was shooting Jaws out on the Atlantic off the coast of Martha's Vineyard.
Jay didn't get the notes from that, did he?
Well, but the thing is, Jay, everybody saw the footage when it was coming back to the studio, and ultimately all that mattered is, do I have the shot? Can I cut it into the movie? And so again, all that mattered was, did the mechanical shark work for that one shot, and would it work for that moment in the movie? Whereas the mechanical shark for the tram tour at Universal in Hollywood, which, by the way, came online summer of '77, just 1 year after Jaws debuted in theaters. Well, this is an entirely different animal, Eric. This thing has to work flawlessly 12 hours a day. I mean, repeatedly popping out of the water and running down the length of a glamour tram full of tourists as they roll along this faux pier in the middle of the park. And then it has, as soon as the glamour tram is gotten out of the scene, the shark now has to go backwards to the reset position and be ready for that next tram load of tourists, which is coming along in 3 to 5 minutes. So in order to make sure that this particular mechanical shark, the one, on the tram tour at Universal in Hollywood, did what the one in the Spielberg movie never did, which was work flawlessly every time. Jay convinced Lou, it's like, look, I need some money. I not only need money to build the stupid shark, I need a team of on-site engineers dedicated to the operation of this movie magic moment. And so Wasserman, to his credit, $250,000 every year.
Wow.
But they were the equivalent of the shark's fire department. Whenever the shark wouldn't work, these guys would run out and, fix the shark quick. And, maybe a tram or two would go by without seeing the shark, but they'd have it up and running quick. But again, Eric, this is money well spent, because the year that the Jaws scene is added to the tram tour, Universal decides, we're going to announce this. I mean, we're going to buy billboards all over Southern California, and make sure people know that this has just been added to the tram tour. And attendance at Universal Studios Hollywood shoots to the roof that year. And in fact, the previous record for the number of people to take the tram tour in one day, and that was 25,000 people, Eric, gets blown past during the summer of 77. There's one day where 31,000 people climb aboard the Glamour tram. And think about that. That's those things could hold 176 people at a time. So someone out there worked the math. How many trams is that worth of people to get to 31,000? But they're all there because it's like, ooh, I want to see this mechanical shark. I hear this is kind of cool. And Wasserman, who by now has promoted Jay to chairman and CEO of MCA's recreation division. Again, that's the arm of Universal that does the parks. Lou turns to Jay and said, "You just keep doing what you're doing. I have your back." So, all right, which is why in 1979, in order to capitalize on Battlestar Galactica, the sci-fi series that Universal was producing for ABC, Stein adds the Battle of Galactica to the tram tour. Only in this situation, you're not rolling along a pier and looking down at a mechanical shark that now jumps out of the water and snaps its teeth at you. You come around a corner and there is a massive spaceship blocking the road. And next to it is a Cylon, with a cannon, who's like, you will enter the ship, and the doors open and the entire tram goes into this show scene and the door closes behind you. And then suddenly you are in the middle of this pitched laser battle with animatronic Cylons who, by the way, when they get hit with lasers, split right down the middle. I mean, it's JayBangs to the nth degree. And the beauty part of it is by adding scenes like this now, where you are in the movie. Look, if you're there on a Saturday and Sunday and nothing's being shot in the lot, who cares? All right, if you've paid your admission to Universal Studios Hollywood, you're now guaranteed to get a great show because Jay has built all of these things along the Glamour tram route. Which, by the way, does not get unnoticed by the folks over at Disney. They are, kind of, looking over from Anaheim and watching, Universal's attendance numbers creep up. And, whenever they add a new scene based on something that it gets based on a recent Universal, Pictures production. But here's the thing, Eric. Disney, at least in the late 70s, early 80s, doesn't really have the option of doing this because, this is during the time when the studio is making things like, Unidentified Flying Oddball or The Cat from Outer Space. And so it's been a while since Disney's had a legitimate hit at the domestic box office, which isn't to say that the Imagineers didn't try. I mean, me personally, I've actually seen photos of models and pieces of concept art for rides that were designed around Mary Poppins, the Love Bug, also Robin Hood. And again, the Imagineers were trying to sell management on, look, we need to put some new stuff in the parks. We can't just keep building things around 30-year-old cartoons. And of course, the Disney management nods and smiles and goes, "Hey, we really like this Pinocchio Daring Journey thing. Why don't you build that for Anaheim and Japan?" Whereas over at Universal, under Jay Stein's direction, they keep adding even more elaborate things to the tram tour. I mean, for example, Confrontation in 1986. And by the way, Jay came up with that name. In fact, he used to tell the story. He was home in bed and woke up out of deep sleep. Confrontation. It's like, his poor wife. I don't know what she thought. But anyway, but he goes to Washington and I need $30 million. I need $6 million to build a 30-foot tall King Kong animatronic. And not only that, I don't think any of our guys can do it, but I know a guy at Disney, or in fact, who's just left there, Bob Gurr. I think he can build this for us. And he did. And then on the heels of that, we get Earthquake, the big one. That's based on a Universal Pictures release from 1974. That opens on the tram tour in 1988. And again, and the whole time Stein's looking over at Disney, and it's like, really? That's all you got? America sings, and it's like, and it's just sort of like, and now mind you, Disney, would do things like, okay, no, we really are going to put our one of our new movies in the park, and then you'd get like People Mover, featuring the world of Tron.
Oh, yeah. Dark in a dark tunnel with flashing lights for a little bit.
There you go. All right. So this is when Jay goes to Lou and says, we have to take this to Disney. They're fat. They're happy. They're complacent. Worse than that, they're lazy. They're resting on their laurels. We can take them. And so this is why, at Stein's urging, Wasserman then begins acquiring land down in Florida in the 1970s with the idea of someday building Universal City, Florida, just down the street from Walt Disney World. Now, on this podcast, in the past, we have told the story of how Michael Eisner, back when he was the head of Paramount Pictures, reportedly got to see Universal's plans for what they were planning on building down in Florida. And then after Michael became Disney's new CEO, late September of 1984, allegedly used this information to fast-track development of what was originally known as the MGM Studio Tour. Not only that, making sure, supposedly, that this third gate that Disney was now building down in Florida would have movie-themed ride shows and attractions that were the equivalent to what Jay Stein and his team at MCA Recreation had been planning on building at Universal City, Florida. Reportedly, supposedly, allegedly. That's got us covered for the lawyers, right, Eric?
I think so.
Okay, good. All right. We have necessary coverage here, folks, to continue with this story. But look, Jay Stein, who, if you've been listening to this tribute today, kind of a competitive guy. He didn't get mad at what Michael Eisner allegedly, reportedly, supposedly had done. He got even. So when Stein saw that Eisner intended on giving Disney MGM a tram tour, just like the one that Universal had in Hollywood, Jay said, that's fine. Yeah, that King Kong and Earthquake scene on our tram tour, out in Hollywood, we're not going to do those as full-blown attractions, just like Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean or the Haunted Mansion. And this sort of tit-for-tat, back-and-forth battle would continue for a decade. Nearly a decade. Disney would open Star Tours, and then Universal would then respond with Back to the Future, the ride, or Disney would open Mickey's Toontown, and Universal, would then respond with something like Fievel's Playland, and Eric, this continued right up until November of 1990. Which is when Matsushita Electric Industrial Company buys MCA for $6 billion. And now, instead of working directly for Lou Wasserman, a man who trusts Stein implicitly, who will back him every step of the way when it comes to the Universal Parks, Jay suddenly finds himself working for a bunch of Japanese executives who, if I'm being blunt here, don't seem all that interested or don't seem to understand the theme park business, which is frustrating for Stein. Given that at this window of time in the company's history, he is actively pushing for Universal to get their first theme parks, in Europe open, likewise in Asia. But after 3 years of, flying over to Tokyo and dealing with a bunch of suits who would nod and smile and then not do anything, Jay had enough. So he retires and he puts Universal in the rear view. And where this gets interesting, Eric, is he seriously separated himself from the company. For 2 decades. In fact, there's this great story about how in 2014 he finally returns to Orlando, the resort that happened only because he leaned on Wasserman for all of those years. And the only reason he goes back is he has a granddaughter who's into Harry Potter. And so, and it's just, and she keeps, Grandpa, you built that park. I want to go see the Wizarding World. It's fine. All right. And so it's, he calls friends at this, and of course they give him the best room at the best hotel, and nothing's too good for Jay Stein. And they walk him through Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, and he just sings the praises of the teams, like, holy cow, you guys did a great job. But again, that's a Universal creative team. And by the way, the man who used to be in charge of this division of Universal Destinations and Experiences, back when the Wizarding World was in development, that's Mark Woodbury. And Mark Woodbury is a Jay Stein protege. Jay hired him. Jay taught him everything that Mark knows. And which is why one ambitious man teaches another ambitious man, which is now why Woodbury is in charge of the whole shooting match at Universal, the destinations and experiences. And based on comments that Mark has posted over in the past 10 days, 2 weeks, it's clear that Woodbury thought the world of Jay Stein. But you know who else did, Eric? Disney Company President Frank Wells.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. There is this great story in JayBang's. That's an absolutely excellent book about Jay Stein's career that theme park historian Sam Ganaway wrote and published back in 2016. Still readily available, folks. Head to Amazon right now. And it talks about how in the mid to late 1980s, Frank Wells had grown tired of battling with Dick Nunes, who for decades at that point had been in charge of the Disney parks. And Wells wanted somebody on the theme park side of things at Disney who would be willing to try new things, like, say, not building Pinocchio's Daring Adventure. And to Frank's way of thinking, the perfect man for this job at Disney would be Jay Stein. So in this book, which, by the way, is subtitled How Jay Stein, MCA, and Universal Invented the Modern Theme Park and Beat Disney at its own game, Ganaway talks about how Wells tries to recruit Stein to come work for the Mouse House. And Eric, this story is so bizarre, it actually features a cameo appearance by Bruce Jenner, now known as Caitlyn Jenner. And to find out what happens next, well, again, folks, you're just going to have to go to Amazon, get yourself a copy of Sam Ganaway's JayBangs. Anyway, it wasn't just Frank Wells or Mark Woodbury who recognized how important Jay Stein was to the theme park industry. This is why 6 years after he'd retired from Universal, the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions inducted Jay into their Hall of Fame in 1999. And by the way, me personally, I only got the chance to talk with Stein a few times. I mean, after he stopped working in themed entertainment, Jay got as far away from Hollywood and Orlando as he possibly could. I mean, I want to say the guy bought, a lovely retirement home. It was either in Oregon or Iowa. Someplace where even I'm a guy who lives off of a dirt road in the woods of New Hampshire. I took a look and I was like, wow, that is really remote. Holy cow. But look, I think it's fair to say here that if it hadn't been for Jay Stein and his innovative and competitive spirit, the theme park that as we know it today wouldn't exist. That's honestly how important this man was to the themed entertainment industry. And this is why Eric and I want to offer our sincerest condolences to the friends and family of Jay Stein. He was a great man who truly will be missed. So There we go.
Yeah, Jim. And I'm reading a book myself right now, Universal Orlando, the unofficial story, and it's by Nick Sim. And I'm like in the first couple chapters, and to talk about Jay and his involvement to bring the theme park to Florida. Is truly like that's what they're talking about right now. It was really pushing, and the confrontation was a huge deal when they released that out in Hollywood. And they're like, "This is what we're doing down here," and it got people excited. And I think he bought a $10,000 full page ad in the Sentinel saying like, "This could be," and it basically was talking about Hollywood, but it's like, "But it could be coming here soon" or something like that to get everybody moving. So we have a lot of debt and gratitude towards Jay Stein. So
absolutely.
I'm gonna pick up the JayBang's book. I've seen it a million times, but it does have a picture of him with Jaws on the front. So I was thrown off a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if I want that on my shelf just yet. But no. I think thank you for covering that, and I think everybody will appreciate a little bit of his story.
No. They're glad to do it. And again, Jay was a great guy.
All right, guys, I think that'll do it for this week's Epic Universal podcast. So as always, if you have topic suggestions for any of the future editions of the podcast, please send them over to us via social media, or, you can connect with us over at jimhillmedia.com. But hey, on behalf of Mr. Hill and myself, thanks for listening. We'll be back soon.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.